The next stimulus checks are on the way. About 90 million payments have been disbursed so far. And the IRS extends the tax deadline by a month. 21 states are suing Biden over the Keystone XL pipeline cancellation. It's spearheaded by Texas and Montana. They argue the president did not have the authority to unilaterally change an energy policy that Congress had set. And head of Homeland Security faced questions on Capitol Hill yesterday. He was grilled on the Biden administration's immigration policy. Tune into Deep Dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. The third stimulus checks are on the way. The U.S. issued 90 million checks. The first group to get the money includes people who provided direct deposit information to the IRS on recent tax returns or are on the IRS website. About 150,000 paper checks have also been mailed. In all, about $242 billion has been paid. Individuals earning under $75,000 and married couples making less than $150,000 get the full amount, $1,400 each. And on the note of the IRS, the tax deadline is being pushed back this year. The IRS commissioner said in a statement the deadline will be automatically extended by a month. The new deadline is now May 17th. He says this continues to be a tough time for many people. And the IRS wants to continue to do everything possible to help taxpayers navigate the unusual circumstances related to the pandemic, while also working on important tax administration responsibilities. But he suggests for those expecting refunds to file as soon as possible. He suggests filing electronically to get direct deposits. But not all states are following the changes. Taxpayers are advised to check their state's deadline, as not all follow the federal government. And now let's turn to the topic of jobs. 21 states are suing Biden over the Keystone XL pipeline cancellation. It's spearheaded by Texas and Montana. They argue the president did not have the authority to unilaterally change an energy policy that Congress had set when he revoked the permit on his first day in office. That power, they argue, rests with Congress. That is, the power to regulate interstate and international commerce, including granting or rejecting permits for oil pipelines that cross an international border. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton says since his first day in office, President Biden has made it his mission to undo all the progress of the previous administration, with complete disregard for the constitutional limits on his power. His decision to revoke the pipeline permit is not only unlawful, but will also devastate the livelihoods of thousands of workers, their families, and their communities. The Keystone XL was designed to transport approximately 830,000 barrels of oil from Canada and Montana to junctions in the middle of America and to refineries in Houston. It would be constructed as an extension of an existing pipeline system. Trump approved the permit to construct the 1.2 miles of pipeline in 2019. That's after it was axed during the Obama era. The pipeline's construction was meant to create and sustain thousands of jobs and advance the U.S. to achieving energy independence. It was also designed to improve commercial relations with Canada and provide tax revenues to high-poverty areas. A Canadian leader, Alberta Premier Jason Kenney, in January, called Biden's decision to halt the completion of the oil pipeline a gut punch, adding he was upset the U.S. wouldn't consult with Canada first before acting. Kenney said at a news conference at the time, "As friends and allies of the United States, we are deeply disturbed that one of President Biden's first actions in office has been to rescind the presidential permit for the Keystone XL pipeline border crossing. This is a gut punch for the Canadian and Alberta economies." He went on to say, "Sadly, it is an insult directed at the United States' most important ally and trading partner on day one of a new administration." Prime Minister Justin Trudeau also expressed disappointment over the decision at the time. Biden said in his executive order at the time, canceling the pipeline was needed because the pipeline disserves the U.S. national interest. The order reads, "The United States and the world face a climate crisis. At home, we will combat the crisis with an ambitious plan to build back better, designed to both reduce harmful emissions and create good, clean energy jobs. Our domestic efforts must go hand in hand with U.S. diplomatic engagement. Because most greenhouse gas emissions originate beyond our borders, such engagement is more necessary and urgent than ever. Adding leaving the Keystone XL pipeline permit in place would not be consistent with my administration's economic and climate imperatives. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell responded by saying China and Russia must be thrilled about this, adding that our new government is essentially declaring war on some of our own economic foundations to satisfy a craving for symbolic gesture. McConnell also questioned Biden's decision to halt oil and natural gas development on public lands, saying the move instantly cuts domestic oil production by 1/5 and slashes U.S. energy independence. He said in 2019, the U.S. ran an energy surplus for the first time since the 1950s. He also said stopping work on the Keystone Pipeline will impact 11,000 American workers, including 8,000 union workers. Now let's turn to the southern border. The House is voting on the Dreamers Act, or H.R. 6 today. If passed, it would offer a pathway to citizenship to those who enter the country illegally as children and are currently living in the U.S. The same bill would also help immigrants in the country who receive temporary migration protections. According to the Migration Policy Institute, if the bill passes, an estimated 4.4 million illegal immigrants could become eligible for permanent residence. 7 Republicans joined 230 Democrats in the House in voting for the bill in 2019. 2 Republican congressmen are opposing the bill. They say it sends the message those who enter illegally will be rewarded. Congressman Greg Stoib told the Epoch Times that Americans have a lot of compassion for children, but he says this bill gives out the wrong message, that illegal immigration is okay. He thinks that's one of the reasons the southern border is currently being inundated with illegal immigrants carrying minors. And Congressman Ted Budd told the Epoch Times if the bill passes, it would prompt even greater numbers of children to be sent to the border and give drug cartels more motivation to keep using the strategy to overwhelm Custom and Border Patrol. He said, quote, "They are messaging to the world, come here, whether legally or not. And if you come here, we might catch you, but we're going to release you." CBS Evening News reported late Tuesday that more than 13,000 young migrants are being held in the U.S. custody for an average of 120 hours. Legal requirements set the limit at 72 hours. The Biden administration has acknowledged it's a big problem, but stopped short of calling it a full-fledged crisis. And now President of the National Border Patrol Council, Brandon Judd, tells Fox News the situation at the border qualifies as a crisis. He says, quote, "A week ago, I would not have called this a crisis. Today, it meets the definition. We are overwhelmed. We do not have the resources to stop the cartels from bringing in illegal aliens, from bringing in drugs. Therefore, we are in fact in a crisis." He says Biden does understand it's a crisis, hence why he told migrants not to come over during an interview with ABC News. And head of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas had his first public appearance before the House yesterday. There, he faced questions on the Biden administration's immigration policy. He defended the Biden administration's handling of the border situation, asserting that the border is secure and that they inherited a broken system. He also confirmed the U.S. is on pace to encounter more illegal immigrants crossing the border than any year in the past 2 decades. Republicans say Biden's moves to rescind Trump-era immigration policies essentially served as a welcome mat for illegal immigrants. As president, Biden has undone over 12 immigration policies that President Trump had put in place to curb illegal immigration. One of the first actions Biden took when entering office was to terminate the national emergency at the southern border, first declared by Trump in 2019. Biden says no more American taxpayer dollars are to be diverted to construct a border wall. Mayorkas said they have a process for testing and quarantining immigrants, but he did not deny that some who have tested positive have been released. And House Democrats on Tuesday blocked a Republican legislation that would have required illegal immigrants released into the U.S. to receive a negative COVID-19 test first. Led by freshman Representative Marionette Miller-Meeks, the REACT Act would require migrants released into the U.S. to first test negative for the virus. Meeks said in a statement, "This week I traveled to El Paso, Texas to meet with CBP agents and officers. I saw firsthand the crisis they are facing." Adding approximately 50% of agents have tested positive for COVID-19, and very few migrants are being tested. According to reports, 185 migrants released into Brownsville, Texas as of March 8th have tested positive. And Senator Shelley Moore Capito is leading 40 of her Republican colleagues to sign a letter. They are asking the Government Accountability Office to say if Biden suspending funding and construction of the southern border wall is justified under federal law. The letter states the president's actions directly contributed to this unfortunate yet entirely avoidable scenario, and that they are also a blatant violation of federal law and infringe on Congress's constitutional power of the purse. As part of Trump's $900 billion stimulus package, Congress approved nearly $1.4 billion in funding for the border wall. The senators believe Biden's actions violated the Impoundment Control Act as interpreted by the office and are requesting the GAO's legal opinion. This comes amid a surge in border crossings. A Republican congressman has introduced a bill in regards to the border situation. He wants to take the National Guard that are stationed at the Capitol and send them down to the border. It's North Carolina's Greg Murphy who's introducing it. His bill comes as Capitol Police said there is no credible threat at the Capitol. And while there is a surge of illegal immigrants coming to the southern border, he says the purpose of sending the guardsmen and women to the southern border is for securing the southern land border of the United States and management and care for migrants at such border. But what do you think? Let me know below. Thanks for tuning in to Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.